Hi everyone, I'm back to answer more of your questions. Today I'm going to be answering questions that are cooking or kitchen related, which is why I decided to film in my kitchen. So let's get started. The first question is, how old were you when you started baking? Well, I tried to start baking very young. I was always so interested in cooking and baking. And my mom had been on this kick of baking lots of different kinds of sweet yeast breads, bulki, ruleti, and I was just mesmerized. I loved watching her do it. I thought it was just the most interesting thing in the world. But of course, she didn't let me do it. I was only 5 years old. One evening when she and Dad were gone, and my grandpa was babysitting us kids. He was basically in the garage most of the night, and we were playing in the house. And I knew this was the perfect time. I got out the mixing bowls. I mixed up the dough. Of course, I didn't have a recipe. I couldn't even read anyway, but I had watched Mom, so I felt very confident. I made the dough. I even shaped it into loaves, and I saved some dough on the side, and I made some special designs to go on top of it, braids and roses and all kinds of things. I put it on top. I'm telling you, I watched my mom. I made an egg wash. I brushed it over it. Here's me, 5 years old, doing this. Anyway, I knew that I was not allowed to turn on the oven by myself. So we had a friend of my parents stop by, and he comes in, and I'm showing him what I'm doing, and I'm like, can you please turn on the oven? My parents don't let me turn on the oven by myself. He's like, you know what? I think you should wait for your parents. I'm like, okay. Well, anyway, we got tired, went to bed. My grandpa comes in from the garage. The whole table is covered in ingredients and dough, and then he sees these creations of mine. Well, he got a good laugh, and he spent the rest of the night cleaning up after me. But we sure had fun, and he had a laugh telling my parents all about it when they came home. I was always interested in baking and cooking for as long as I can remember myself. But I started baking on my own and with my parents' permission by the time I was about 10 years old. I do remember that I made midavik when I was 11 years old. It's a honey layer cake, and it's kind of, I would say, complicated. And my mom had told me that I couldn't do it by myself. So one day when she wasn't home, I guess it's a trend of mine, I was like, I'm going to show her that I can do it. And I did. Okay. How did or do you manage to cook, bake from scratch with a newborn and now with a little one? Well, let me tell you, this is definitely a challenge, and it's something I'm dealing with every day, like I know a lot of you guys are. But one of my biggest tips is to cook simple meals. And there's so many things you can cook from scratch that are very nutritious that don't take a lot of time at all. And I uploaded a video not too long ago about one of our Sunday dinners, and that's a perfect example. Rice, fish, and green beans. It doesn't take long at all, and it's so good. I have a whole bunch of recipes like that on my blog, and I'll put a link in the description box below so you can check them out and get some ideas for yourself. Another thing is that I menu plan every single week, and having a menu is such a big, huge help, because by sitting down once a week and putting in a little bit of time to plan the menu, the rest of the week I don't have to think about it. I know what I'm cooking. It saves me so much time and stress too, because every day I don't have to think about it. And that way I can make sure to take the meat out of the freezer the night before. I can do a lot of prep work ahead of time. And I can do a lot of prep work in the evening when Sergi's home. So I can take out the meat. I can start chopping some vegetables. So like I was mentioning earlier, chopping onions. I can chop a bunch of onions or chop a bunch of carrots that I can use later on in the week. Another thing is that I try to do as much prep as I can before I actually start cooking. That way it's going very smoothly and fast because everything's already prepped. And the way I like to do it is by prepping as much as I can while Nathaniel is napping. He naps right now twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. So usually during one of those naps, I'll prep as much as I can. That way when I'm cooking, it goes so smoothly. I can also do a lot of prep work while he's in the kitchen here with me. So he's sitting here playing on the floor. I'll give him some apples or oranges or measuring cups, his favorite toys to play with. And while he's playing, I'm doing as much as I can. As you can see, I like to kind of break it up into little sections because he gets distracted so easily. So I'm just prepping, and then when he starts getting fussy, at least I got so much done, and then there's going to be less work to do when I'm actually cooking. So all of that really, really helps. And if worst comes to worst, and I had a really busy day, or Nathaniel was fussy, or he was teething, or whatever, or maybe I was just not in the mood to cook, we can always do breakfast for dinner. That always works. Eggs, pan-fried potatoes, pancakes, those are so easy. No time at all. You don't need any prep work, and it's always a winner in our house. We love breakfast. I also stock my pantry with things that don't take a lot of time to cook. So we have rice, pasta on hand, we have frozen vegetables, so I can always whip up something really quickly, even when things don't go as planned. Life gets in the way, you know how it is. So it's good to have a stocked pantry. I noticed your portions for different food are pretty big. What do you guys do with all the food? Do you guys actually eat it all? Freeze it? Give it away? Can you eat everything you make? Most of the food that I cook on my blog, if it's a big portion, then either yes, I can freeze it, or it's good served as a leftover. But if it's not, and it's something you need to eat it right away, then usually the portions are only for 2 to 4 people, unless I'm having company over. So yes, we do like to feed our friends and family, and I do freeze some food. I don't freeze a lot though. You would be surprised. I don't freeze a lot of food, but we'll eat it as a leftover. So usually, like I said, if it's something that can be eaten as a leftover, I'll make more, but otherwise the portions will be 2 to 4 servings. And for me, I think if I'm making something that takes a lot of time, like lasagna or cabbage rolls, then I'm going to make a lot of it because I'm going to freeze it. I don't want to go through all of that work and just eat it once. So that's kind of my philosophy. Or if I hardly ever bake unless I'm baking a lot because I'm taking it somewhere, we're having people over, or I just want to freeze half of it. I just don't want to go through all that work, especially now that I have a baby, and then we're only able to use that food for only one night. Sometimes when I try a new recipe, I like to cut it in half because I'm not sure if we will like it and it's a big money investment. Would this work with your baked goods? That's a really good idea, and that's very smart of you. Usually it will work, but I wouldn't suggest it for things like cakes. But you can most definitely do it with cookies or muffins or something. Definitely do half of it. What do you cook for your little man? Does he eat everything you cook for yourself and your husband? I touched on this a little bit in the first video, but I don't usually cook like something special for Nathaniel. He does eat most of the time whatever Sergi and I are eating. Nathaniel is such a good eater. I'm so blessed that he eats pretty much everything. Actually, I can't think of anything that he hasn't eaten so far that we've given him. But he loves food so much, and I'm working on a post right now about all the food that we feed him and what he eats and all that. So you can read a lot more details in that post very soon. I was wondering what brand of nonstick pans and slow cooker you recommend. Been frustrated with my pans lately. They work fine in the beginning, and then all the food starts sticking after a month of use. I don't use my slow cooker a lot, but I have a very standard model I picked up at Target, and I'll insert a picture of the one that I have. I don't even remember which one it is. It was very cheap. I think it was like $40, but I don't use it very often, so I didn't want to invest in one that would cost a lot of money. Nonstick pans, I don't have a lot of nonstick pots, but I do have a few nonstick skillets, and I change those about every 6 months or so. I buy new ones because the coating will wear off no matter how good the pan is. And you do want to change that because it's very harmful if you don't and the coating comes off and it gets into your food. That's horrible. So I switch them quite often, sometimes even more often than 6 months. But it should definitely last you at least that long. If it's only for 1 month, that's not good. And I usually buy the Tefal nonstick skillets. Those are great. You want to look for something that's sturdy and not flimsy, because it'll scorch your food and it's not going to cook evenly. So those are the ones I've been using and they work great for me. I also wanted to mention that whenever you guys are wondering about what kind of cooking equipment I'm using, what kind of pots and pans I would recommend, any kinds of kitchen related things, I have an Amazon shop on my blog, and I have almost everything that I own, or at least the things that I love, listed there. And it's the exact same model that I personally use, that I've been using for a while, that I love and recommend, and I put them all in there so that you guys can find it easily without having to ask me and wait for me to answer. I don't mind answering, but just for your convenience, it's all there. And I do make a small commission from Amazon links, but it doesn't mean that the price is going to be higher for you if you buy it through that link. Of course, if you feel funny about that, you can definitely not use it. Just look for the brands that I recommend and then you can buy it somewhere else. Or if you buy it on sale or at a garage sale or whatever, that's totally fine. I'm just telling you this so that you would know that it's there and all my recommendations are there. And I don't put things in there that I don't use myself and that I love. Hi Olga, do you have a recipe for a diet? So I'm assuming you're asking if I have healthy recipes. And I have a lot of healthy recipes on my blog. Personally, I have to eat healthy, otherwise I don't feel good. Even though I do cook a lot of food that isn't necessarily healthy, I can't eat a lot of it. So our menu consists of a lot of healthy food on a weekly basis. I have a section on my blog where I have all of the recipes that are healthy in one spot. So I'll put a link in the description box below so you can find it all very easily. Do you have a good recipe for Thanksgiving stuffing? Absolutely. I actually have two. One of them is like a more traditional stuffing with like carrots and celery and onions and sage and parsley, all of those things. And there's also some pecans, cherries, and apples in there. And it's so good. And another one is with sourdough bread. And there's sausage and fennel and all kinds of other goodies in there. So I'll put a link for both of those recipes in the description also. Do you have an amazing mac and cheese recipe that you use? I sure do. I actually have two for those as well. I have one that is a stovetop recipe that you cook everything on the stovetop, and the other recipe is where you make the cheese sauce and you mix it with the pasta and then you put it in the oven and you have like a crunchy breadcrumb topping. So I have two recipes. I actually don't have them on my blog, so I should put those up soon. But if you give me your email address, I'll email you the recipes that I have before I put them on the blog. Do you have any freezer meal suggestions? Or how do you handle cooking when you're not feeling well or we're recovering after baby? I'm due with my second soon and can't find a lot of good Russian food, or one that would be fine for Russian taste buds, to freeze up before the baby comes. Sometimes something on the cheaper side would be nice. I've seen a lot of beef recipes, but beef for a month is very expensive. So yeah, how do you manage house maintenance and cooking while recovering after the baby, basically? I actually have a ton of freezer recipes on my blog, so I'll put a link in the description box below so you can have plenty to choose from. And there's so many, and I love to freeze breakfast things like breakfast burritos, breakfast strudels, pancakes freeze great, muffins, bread, and also meatballs, rice freezes great, soups, broth. There's so many things you can freeze. But besides freezing, I would have to say the same thing I said in the very beginning. Cook very simple meals. Breakfast for dinner, fish, all of those things are great when you're recovering after having a baby. But yes, if you stock up your freezer, it's going to help you for a long time. Recovering from having a baby is hard and it'll take time, so don't put too much stress on yourself about it. Before you know it, you'll be feeling like yourself again, and then you can go back to what you were used to. But for now, just take it easy and do simple things. Simple is best anyway. Where did you buy your cast iron skillet? Well, actually, the cast iron skillet was a present from my husband, so I'm not sure where he bought it. But I know that I've seen them in Target, Walmart, they're everywhere. But I buy most of the things for my kitchen online. I'm one of those people that likes to read reviews, I like to do my research, and then I'll buy it. And usually I can find a better deal online. So we have an Amazon Prime membership, which means we get free shipping. And usually Amazon has very good prices anyway. So I'll find a good price, or a lot of times I'll find really good things at Home Goods. They have things that are so much cheaper. Like I bought my all-clad skillet for like half the price of what it is a regular price. And there's so many things like that I bought there. So look around for good deals, but I would have to say online is my favorite place to shop. Which Dutch oven do you use? I'm looking for one and don't know which one is the best. I have two Dutch ovens that I use all the time. Both of them get so much use in my kitchen. One of them is a Le Creuset and the other is a Calphalon. Now, the Le Creuset, it's much more sturdier and it's heavier because it's made out of cast iron. So it browns things better, I think, and it distributes heat better because it's so much heavier. Because it's a lot sturdier, I feel safer deep frying in it. But the Calphalon is absolutely awesome too. And it's a lot cheaper. I actually bought my Le Creuset Dutch oven in an outlet store, so that's another good tip right there. Look in outlet stores. I bought it for half the price, maybe even more than half. Have you tried making cabbage rolls, голубцы, in a crock pot? I have. And honestly, I prefer doing it on the stovetop. It takes so long to make them in the first place, and then you have to wait forever for it to cook in the slow cooker. So it cooks much faster, and I prefer the taste of it better on the stovetop because it's not as watery. So that's just my preference. But yeah, I know you can definitely do it in the slow cooker if you want to. Your kitchen is beautiful. Thank you. We love our kitchen. Are white cabinets high maintenance? And then I have another question that's in Russian, basically is asking the same thing. So yes, white kitchens. For me, having a white kitchen is not high maintenance at all, at least in my opinion. I don't spend a lot of time cleaning it anyway. And I noticed that because I have a white kitchen, it's so easy to see when you make a mess, when you spill something, you wipe it up, and it's so easy to wipe something up when you do it right away than when it's already dried on and you have to scrub at it. And I don't know, it's not hard to clean it at all. And I usually just spritz it with an all-purpose cleaner, wipe it down, and that's it. I love having a white kitchen. I think it looks so bright and cheerful, and I think it looks classical, and that's kind of my style, simple and classic. So we love it, and it's not hard to maintain at all. I don't remember if you have a post about how you organize your kitchen and pantry. If you don't, I would love for you to share some pictures with us if you don't mind. I'm in the process of reconstructing my kitchen, and I'm looking for ideas on what does an easy-to-use kitchen look like. Well, my kitchen is so much bigger now than it was when I was in the apartment. So I have a post on how I organized it in a tiny little kitchen that I had before. And I actually took pictures to do it again in this kitchen, but it would take me so long to do it because explaining it all, writing it down, doing the pictures, it would have been such a long post. So I'm thinking of doing a video to just show you the way I organize my kitchen. So whenever I get a chance, I'll film that for you guys, and hopefully that'll help some of you guys. Thank you for all your wonderful questions. I really enjoyed answering them for you. I hope that was helpful. And of course, you can always write me comments and questions on my blog or in the email. If you have any more questions, I'm happy to help anytime. And I'm going to be filming one more video after this about meal planning and organizing. And those are my favorite subjects, so I'm really looking forward to filming that video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again next time. Bye.